And also it is a recorded event, so they can always,
Oh, it's a recorded
yeah,
event.
they can always access it online. They are there on that laptop sheet. Miriam prefers to know.
Yeah, it's on. Can you hear me? Switch it off. On, off. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, fellow colleagues, all protocol observed. Thanks for making the time this morning to join this webinar. Kindly accept our profuse apologies for the delay. Unfortunately, technology failed us, but here we are. Before we start, I would like to request that we observe a brief moment of silence for our deceased land sister, Advocate Annette Nabanja of the Legal Department of the Uganda Petroleum Authority, whose funeral service is ongoing even as we start this seminar. A moment of silence, please. May her soul rest in eternal peace. I am Agnes Tibaita Isharaza, your moderator this morning. I would like to thank all those who have made this webinar possible, especially our cluster team, Mr. Patrick Trinawe, the support teams from the Uganda Law Society, and the NSSF technical teams. Thank you very much. I bring you greetings from the Uganda Labor Law and Retirement Benefits cluster, which organized this session. The cluster has resolved that we will be having interactions of this nature around topical and relevant topics around our cluster mandate. We would like that these benefit not only our clients, so we'll not be talking law or legal matters strictly today, but we want to discuss topical issues around our cluster mandate as affect us as lawyers as well. So this will be a session of self-introspection. We want to see how we can help ourselves as lawyers on the topic that we are going to discuss. I also bring you greetings from the National Social Security Fund, where I am employed as the Corporation Secretary. The fund has purposed itself to make saving a way of life for our members and our stakeholders. We are very passionate about this. And to this end, we have determined to make financial literacy a priority. And that is why NSSF is featuring in this discussion. We'll say a lot more about this later. And I also know that right now, when we talk about NSSF, this is synonymous with the ongoing debate about our law. So I want to take the bull by its horns. We are waiting for the amendments, as will be assented to by the president. And we assure you, our members, our stakeholders, that your money is there. It's safe, it's very safe, and it will be availed within the provisions of the amendments, as will eventually be assented to. Our topic today is planning for retirement. Planning for retirement. And like I said, it's a moment of self-introspection for us as lawyers. Now let's not think about our clients, we're thinking about ourselves. And on this note, perhaps I would add that I know that on this call, we may have a couple of non-lawyers. So if you're on the call, kindly share your name, let us know who you are, so we know who we are speaking to, and please share your thoughts. So why the topic? Allow me use a Chiganda saying, the Baganda say, zikusooka ne zitakuva mabega. Zikusooka enaku, trials, tribulations, pain, suffering would rather come first, and later you have bliss, happiness, joy. This is what retirement could be. When you look ahead, what do you see? And I would like you to take a moment with me, just you as an individual. Don't think about your colleagues, you as an individual. And I know we've had these thoughts before. How do you envision your future? How do you envision your retirement? How do you envision your retirement? What do you see 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? What do you see? I'll tell you, for me, I'm a mother. I can see, God willing, I would like to see my kids all grown up with their own families, self-dependent. I would like to be self-sufficient. I would like to do so many things. So the dream could go on. What do you see? That dream of yours. And I would like that you hang on to that dream as we have the discussion that we are going to have today. But I think I can imagine that we are all looking at happiness, bliss during those years of our lives when we'll be unable to go on. So the question that is begged then is, how do we achieve this dream? How do we get there? How do we get there? It starts now. So for some of us, we are already on the journey. Good for you. For some of us, we are yet to commence on the journey. Some have started, but will probably need some refocusing. This session is for you. But one thing that is for sure is that we need to act. We need to act. In church the other day, if you'll allow me, for those who are not Christians, if you read the book of James, faith and actions. So we may have the dream that you've just gone through now, you've envisioned. How will you achieve that dream? It could remain a dream. If you're a Christian, a religious person, you could pray and hope that God will intervene. God does intervene, but the same God, if we read in that book, says faith must be accompanied by actions. In fact, if I recall, one of our preachers said, why do we think, and I would like to borrow this example, why do we think that the non believers appear to prosper more than the believers in the real world? Maybe it's not true for you, but generally. And the answer is very simple. The non believer is not clinging on to any hope or any miracle. The non believer folds their sleeves and works. And I think that's what James was talking about. Show me your faith, I'll show you my works. And of course, if you work, the results will be evident. If you pray and don't work, clearly that will also be, the results will be evident. So today, we would like to see how to apply this dream of ours for that time in our lives when we are unable to continue. I've been asked very recently, do we as lawyers retire? Do we lawyers retire? I don't know what your experience is, but for us in the corporate public service, definitely we have no choice. The law is clear, or the policies are clear. When you hit 55 or 60 years of age, you must leave. You have to leave. In the private sector, when do you retire? Do you even think about retirement? Or for the corporate and public service lawyer, indeed, when you leave this place that you've called home for a number of years, what happens thereafter? How do you live? Where do you go? So, again, just to borrow a South African proverb, old age does not announce itself. Old age does not announce itself. Yeah, so we celebrate birthdays, and with each birthday, even as we celebrate, I think the wise then would know that it is announcing itself because it's taking you closer to that moment. So this webinar is for those of us who have not addressed our minds to the reality that old age will come. It's inevitable. It is coming. It is for those of us who have started on the journey but may need a few pointers here and there. And it is for those of us who actually have stories to share to enable those of us who haven't started on the journey begin. For the young lawyer listening in, you're very, very lucky to have the opportunity to be able to share these experiences now. You are absolutely lucky. I recall as a young girl growing up, I thought, or rather, I used to pray that I lived up to at least 35 years. Now, then, 35 years for me was really old, and I'll tell you why. Those were the days when life seemed meaningless. We'd be going to school, you find dead bodies all over the place, hear gunshots in the night, and people are dropping dead right, left, and center. And then, unfortunately for me, I also lost my brothers. So it's like growing up was not guaranteed. So 35 seemed really old for me at that point. But here I am, many years later, thank God, still counting. But I wish I knew now what I knew when I started my life. I wish I knew now that I needed to start planning for now and for the years to come. So young lawyers, you're lucky. Then for those of us in my category, my age bracket, I think the age is evident, yeah, in my age bracket. So we like to debate whether we are halfway through our life, whether we are approaching the halfway stage, whether we've just passed the stage. And for me, I think we've passed the point. In any case, currently, I think the expectation now in Uganda is around 63 as of 2019. So I don't think it has changed much. So we are at that point in our lives where if we haven't thought about these things, we really must wake up. And unfortunately for us, this is the time where the responsibilities are enormous. For those of us who are parents, kids are growing, the demands of education are increasing. You who are in this situation would identify with what I'm saying. Some are just beginning to have children now, yeah? We have support systems, families relying on you to support them. You want that nice house for your family. You are running your law practice. You have employees looking up to you to support them. The pressure is on, it's enormous. But you have to think about yourself. You have to think about your children. You have to think about that time. So thankfully, we still have the energy, I believe. So let's go for it. And then there are those of our colleagues who I would say are in the evening years of their lives, but they still strive. They hustle and bustle for various reasons. Everyone has their own story. Some, because that's all they can do. They don't know how to do anything else. For some, that's the only source of income. They have to keep striving, but the energy is ebbing. The energy is ebbing. I hope that for those of our colleagues in that category, I hope that at this point, at least you have a roof over your head to call your own. The basics of life, even as you strive to keep surviving. If you are in this category, thank God. If you're not, it is never too late. It is never too late. So, in the right place. And on this note, I would like to introduce our speakers today. We are privileged to have a very experienced duo, a lady and gentleman, with very rich experience in this area and knowledge that I am confident we shall benefit from as lawyers and our other colleagues on the call. So since the ladies here outnumber the gentlemen, I'll this time introduce the gentleman first. So it will not be ladies first, gentleman first. So we have Mr. Apollo Mboa, who is our customer financial advisor at NSSF. Apollo has worked in investment management, banking, and insurance industries prior to his current assignment. He has conducted hundreds and literally hundreds of training with major emphasis on personal financial management. And I know that some of you have encountered him at various places. As a person, he has interests in transport, education, real estate, and agriculture. And he likes to remind his audience that he has failed at a number of projects. It's natural, you start, fail, and he has gotten up. Apollo is married to one beautiful wife and 3 children, King, Gold, and Crown. I love the names, King, Gold, and Crown. Wow. So Apollo will be speaking to us today. We are privileged to have him here at NSSF. We call him Mr. Headmaster. He actually runs a school, the School of Financial Literacy, with his other colleagues. And he has so many students in the public who have benefited from his experience. Apollo, I look forward to hearing from you, and I'm sure our audience looks forward to hearing from you. I would also like to introduce our second speaker, Miriam Ekirapa Musali, who is one of us in the Land Fraternity. Miriam is an accomplished legal consultant and advocate of the High Court. She has local and regional experience in consulting, regulation, and training within the financial services sector. For purposes of this webinar, I would like to focus on the fact that Miriam was formerly the acting managing director and chief operating officer of Alexander Forbes Financial Services, Uganda Limited, which was renamed Zamara Actuaries, Administrators and Consultants, Uganda Limited. They did a lot of investment on behalf of members. So that's the experience that we want to take away from here. Currently, she's the Director Legal and Board Affairs at Capital Markets Authority. Miriam is quite a scholar. Miriam, I'll not go through this whole list of scholarly achievements. They are quite impressive, but again, for emphasis, she's a certified John Maxwell speaker, trainer, facilitator, and coach. She's spoken at many conferences and facilitates conferences internationally in the areas of corporate governance, pensions, and capital markets in the United Kingdom, South Africa, Malawi, Angola, Botswana, Kenya. Need I go on? And of course, here in Uganda. Miriam is also an author, and she's a director in some companies. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are privileged to have this duo share with us their experience this morning, and I cannot wait to hear from them. But before we start, I would like to request that we conduct, we'll have a poll question. We would like to know whether you have any retirement, whether you're saving. Technical team, are we running the poll? Okay, if we're not ready, we'll run it later. We needed to just get a feel of our audience. We'll run it later. So without wasting much time, because we did lose a couple of minutes at the beginning, I apologize again. I would like to invite Apollo to give us a brief presentation. Miriam will do the same thereafter, and then we'll have a discussion. Kindly post any questions, comments, contributions in the chat, and we will be going through those. Thank you very much, Apollo. The floor is yours. Oh, the poll, the poll is now running. The question is, how many years have you been working? There are a couple of categories there, 2 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, 10 to 15 years. If you could kindly respond. Okay. I would like to see the results, hopefully, before Apollo starts, so we know who we are talking to. Great, so the results are here. We have 12% of our audience having worked for 2 to 5 years. The majority have worked for 5 to 10 years. We have 28% who have worked for 10 to 15 years, and 25% who have worked for more than 15 years. Great, thank you for responding. So Apollo, Miriam, when you're speaking, you now know your audience, you address them accordingly. And do we run a second poll question now? Colleagues, this is to enable our speakers ensure that they address the concerns of our audience, as will be indicated by your responses. Okay, so apologies, a bit of technical challenge there. We'll run it later. So Apollo, over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Apollo is my name. I don't, when you're talking to the land colleagues, I'm trying to find my bearing. How do I address myself? How do I, amidst all the books, the years, you guys go through, lawyers, we respect you. If you've worked with a lawyer before, I need to first, if you are kind enough to share my slides, I need to give my disclaimer. If you have worked with lawyers before, for us who have worked, I have had a chance to work with lawyers, and when you are working with them in an institution, when you see them coming, you sort of give them way. You sort of feel like you don't need to breathe the same air they are breathing. You are lawyers. I mean, I don't know if you guys have gone down to yourselves and understood yourselves. You should be fearing yourselves, because you are lawyers. You are lawyers. You are people we look up and say, if only I had grown up. We haven't grown up yet. So you're a lawyer, and that is one. You are already 10 places ahead of the public. I mean, I don't even know myself. What do I have some degrees, but what do they call me? But you as a person, you are a lawyer. You have a name, you have a title. So today I've been asked, and if they are kind enough to go to the next slide, I've been asked to just speak about retirement. But before I go about retirement, this is just to the public, to the people who are not lawyers. And I'm telling you, you guys, you are overpaid. Anyone else that is not a lawyer, you are overpaid. You will know that you are overpaid, and people will say, no, they're paying me peanuts. Lawyers don't listen to this message. I just thought I needed to say something before I go to the lawyers. You are overpaid. If in your life a new salary excites you, lawyers don't get excited over a new salary. If a new salary excites you for 3 months, and for that first 3 months you are excited, you are happy, you humble applied, and you are just know you are overpaid. If after 3 months that excitement goes away and you start complaining again, just know you are overpaid. You are overpaid if your needs multiply much faster than the increment on your salary. So your salary comes in and they have given you a 500,000 increment, and then you move into a house of 1 million. Just know you are overpaid. You've been in a house of 150, now you're moving into a house of 1 million just because your increment. You are overpaid if you will not quit if your salary is cut into half. Now, most of us out there are under the beat of that we are underpaid, but we are not leaving the places where we are. We are not going into where we can get the actual pay. And indeed, if they come to us and they say, let's cut your pay, you will still work. So if you can still work with half the pay, with the same complaints you've been having with full pay, just know you are overpaid. So ladies and gentlemen, if you will know that you are overpaid if no one demands you for a premium. Now, I need you to understand, as a lawyer, you are, these things don't apply to you. And I will get these things are applying to the public. If you are not being demanded at a premium, you're saying you are underpaid, but you are not leaving that place. And no, even when you try to leave, you threaten to leave, no one is asking to employ you. Just know you are overpaid. That is for you, the non-land friends. For this morning, because I've been given a chance to speak to the lawyers and the land fellas, I will leave that side of the public, and now I will call myself a fellow land colleague for at least for the next 1 hour, and I will say, we are not overpaid. For us, we are paid at value. What we give them is what they pay us. And I even think we are underpaid, us as land friends. But to get into the perspective, I work with the NSSF, and we have a picture here. We have about a workforce of about 17 million people. Of those 17 million people, only 11% have a pension fund or someone looking at them at retirement. Meaning that when they get to retire, someone will come and say, take this money home, or I will take care of you until you die. It's form of a pension. So only 11% of the 17 million people. So if you're part of the people who are in that 11%, tap yourself and you know you are on the right track. At NSSF here, let's go to our money, the money that is being amended for. The balances are showing us that only 7%, please go back to the first slide, only 7% of the balances we have are above 50 million. What that means that only 7% of our members have a balance above 50 million. 93% of us have a balance below 50 million. And that should put you in perspective. When 93% of the people come for their money, they will take home less than 50 million. 50 million in Kampala right now can't do anything. If you try to buy a plot in Kampala, you will not buy one. You'll buy one from Chijabijo, where one of my colleagues comes from. You will not buy anything from Kampala. So meaning you have left your village, you've come to Kampala, you have told the people in the village, I'm not returning to the village, and then they retire you and give you less than 50 million, and you now have to go back to the village and disturb people with your English, with their 50 million. And yet, also the statistics are showing us that 80% of the working population, actually slightly above, towards 90, have the NSSF as their retirement package, nothing else. At NSSF, also here we have another figure that keeps disturbing us. 50 billion, and most people will ask me, where is this money? 50 billion leaves NSSF and goes into the public every month. 50 billion leaves NSSF and goes to qualifying members every month. Now, most of you will ask me to show evidence of this, and I may not be able to. I can show you evidence of the money leaving, but I can't show you evidence of where that money is. Where is that money going? Because if 50 billion is entering the economy, where is it? Is it being reflected? That disturbs us. And 5% of our members retire financially independent. Now, if you're a lawyer and you've been able to afford coffee at Javas, when you retire or when you stop your active employment, you shall still be able to afford that coffee at Javas. That's what financial independence means. It means that if you've been driving a car while in employment, you'll be still able to drive a car in your retirement. But only 5% of our members are able to do that. Only 5% of retired, not just NSSF members, but of retiring population is able to afford a lifestyle they were accustomed to. So most of us drop in level. If you are kind enough, we'll go to, I won't bore you with the statistics. So as the NSSF, our focus, and thanks to the good partnership with ULS, we are going out to the public and saying, let's engage you, let's engage your children, let's engage your parents, let's engage you while you are in employment, so that whatever you need to do in retirement, let's do it now. So we have our initiative around. Some of you are already old enough that we cannot say anything that will change, but let's give us a chance to talk to your children, and let's tell them about, you are 7 years. Let's tell them in 48 years you're going to be retiring. Can you start preparing? Because for some of you, if we tell you about these things now, we shall just break you. You have already done your mistakes. We can only pray for you to rest well. But we can't do much. But let's allow us to go to your children. Allow us to go back to, let's go to your neighbors. Let's go to anyone around you, because our NSSF member will not retire in peace if the ecosystem around them has not retired in peace. Let's go to your parents. Let's ask them. Let's talk about retirement, because this subject needs to be explored. And we are thankful for ULS this morning for giving us a platform. This Miambo Apollo is now talking to the land friends, and I hope you people on video are getting this. I need to take this. It should be good for a loan. If I take this in, if I take this photo when I'm behind this, I can be able to acquire a loan because I'm talking to the land friends. So let's go to you, the lawyer. If Shadrach, you're good enough to go to the next slide. You, the lawyer, the lawyer, you come with a title. Now, I need you to understand who you are in the perspective of us, the public who see you. You are a lawyer. You have a title. We don't just call you Nachi. We call you Counsel something. We don't just call you Agnes, Counsel Agnes. You are a lawyer. I mean, for God's sake, I need you to start appreciating that you are a lawyer. 4 years of school, so many books. I was asking one of my team members how much they read, and she was quoting, I read every morning. I go past 5 billboards. I read them. I mean, but lawyers go past books and books and books. So you are a mwaule. You are separated from the rest. So love this. Lawyers have their language. You know, the English language is not even enough. They have to borrow words from Latin, because that is how big you are. You are even too big for the English language. You have to. This morning I was talking about. I was looking for those Latin language. I could only remember ceteris paribus in economics. I could hibiscus, something like that. But you are. I mean, when you are making your points, one of my teammates was asking, but don't lawyers, when they are arguing, don't they feel like they need to say, allow me for, sorry for that. But then I remember they use other words in Latin, hibiscus, something. But you are a lawyer. The money is good as a lawyer. These are things I'm telling you from this side, and this is how we judge you. We have no excuse for being poor if you are a lawyer, because this is what we see. You are in a suit all the time. I mean, a lawyer, you are in a suit. You have the ability to work for life as a lawyer because your skill is up here. You have the ability to determine your pay. Now, if you are a lawyer and you don't start asking your questions, do I have the ability to determine my pay? Because that's what us, the world, we think about you. And then you ask yourself, is retirement relevant to me? If I have the ability to determine my pay, I have the ability to work for life, do we need to be discussing this topic of retirement? Because I am a lawyer. And my answer is, if Shadrach is good enough to go to the next slide, my answer is in a few of these good words. It's relevance. Why? Now, every time you find that you are working on appearances and neglecting the reality, as a lawyer, working on appearances and neglecting the reality, that is a trigger for you to understand that you need to work on your retirement. Because right now, much as we have said you have all those things, that is what we see. What is your reality? Are you working poor? You know that you are working poor if money excites you. As a lawyer, when the conversation of money comes up, you have nothing to add to it. But when the money comes into your life, you can't settle until you have finished that money. So as a lawyer, much as we see the reality that you're a lawyer, the appearance that you're a lawyer, your reality is you are working poor. You are working poor if you are a conduit of money. Money just comes in and money goes out. You are working poor if And some people think that poor, you can't be poor if you have the English and all that. Poverty now comes dressed in English and in suits. So you can be a poor person as a lawyer walking on the street, but you cannot afford your next meal. You are just one check away from begging. You can be working with. So lawyers, as we look at your appearance, start looking at your reality. What is my reality? Does money excite me? Does money, when I get money, don't, if money starts pushing you to places, and now that you have 100 million, let me not talk about thousands, I'm not talking to teachers, I'm talking to lawyers. You have 100 million, you cannot settle until that 100 million is depleted. No, you need to work on retirement, and retirement is relevant for you, because right now, up until now, you have been working just on your appearances and not your reality. Retirement is really relevant for you, because if you find yourself, you have these great excuses for your poverty and high indebtedness. You have always something, you have a word and saying, no, money is lost. If you're in the conversation of money is lost, and while people are prospering, you're saying money is lost, oh, we shall get there. When we get there, we shall get there. Let's take our pick. If you're mistaking attention for respect, just because people attend to you, I told you when we see lawyers in the corridors, we give them the attention. We need to give them. So if you're mistaking that attention for respect, ladies and gentlemen, I need to tell you, poverty will not be respected. With all the titles as a council, you will retire and we cannot respect you. We cannot even give you treasurer in a church, and in one of those village churches, as a poor person. So if you know that you are having great excuses for your poverty, this is a trigger for you to start understanding that you need to plan for retirement. If you are posing as great, but 1 month away from begging, as a lawyer, 1 month away from begging, if that check does not come in, you are begging. And begging is not that you are on the streets begging, but you are knocking on people. You're calling your clients and telling them, send me 100,000, send me 400,000, send me this. You can even say, send me this in fees. You are asking for your future. You're asking them to pay in advance. Just because one payment did not come in, you have already started begging. If you know you're a beggar, that is a beggar. You're a beggar. It's a trigger for you to start planning for your retirement. If you are driving that Porsche car, but you are always, it is a prayer altar, you are asking God, Lord, if you get me to office without this fuel getting finished, I will praise you, I will praise you. If you have already started begging God, this is becoming, you are a beggar, and you need to start planning for your retirement, because these are trigger things that you need to understand, that much as I'm a lawyer, I can work for life, I can determine my pay, but if these questions are still answering in affirmative, then you need to plan for retirement. As a lawyer, you are into the legend thing. We are lawyers. Just because you've seen one of the very good advocates is driving a certain car, so you also need to drive into that car. You need to be into that. You need to be into that suit. You need to take holidays where these advocates take their holidays. I don't want to mention names here. I am being cautious, but you know of those big names, and we know where they take their children to school, and you say, because I'm a lawyer, he's a lawyer, let me also take my children to that school. If you are having that mentality, just know, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow land friends, you need to look at your retirement, because retirement is going to look different. Please, if you may, let's go on, and I need to leave these people to enjoy their peace. If you get money monthly and keep nothing monthly, you get money monthly, you're a broker of money. Money comes in, money goes out. You're a conduit, you're a distributor. For you receive, you are a funnel. Money comes in, money goes out. As a lawyer, you need to start thinking about the retirement question. If the next deal, if your mentality is the next deal, we'll do that when I get the next deal. This year, if I get that deal, I was discussing with one of our fellow land friends, and they were talking about how there is increased interest in public litigation. I hope those are the words. I want to look smart. Increased interest in public litigation, and we are there. You know, when you're talking to lawyers, you are not discussing. You are making an argument. So one of us was making an argument and saying, it is because that lawyers are now good-hearted and they want to see the public prosper. But then, at the back of our minds, another colleague said, no, they are just looking for money, because public institutions are where you can just get money. So the next deal mentality, now that you have exhausted all the other bits, you start going, let me go for that entity and I sue it. Let me sue them for putting a poster where it shouldn't be. Let me sue them for negligence of their employee. You are not even that. You just interest the employee and you tell them, by the way, you are being neglected. Let's sue, so that you can get the next deal. And you're sure that you will do greater things when you get that deal out. If you are still having that mentality, start planning for retirement. If you are spending money you do not have to buy things you do not need, to impress people that you do not know, that is a question you need to, that is a trigger that you need to understand thinking about retirement. And finally, if you are living in the shadow of that title, when I started, I told you about how we praise lawyers. But if I need you to understand that, yes, you're a lawyer, but you're a human being first. You're a person. And money respects no human being. So you will not, there is no law against you being poor. You will be poor with your title. You will be poor in your suit. You will be poor with all the books and titles behind you. I was the former this, I was this and this, I was that, I was then this. From there, I did the, I argued in the Supreme Court. From the Supreme Court, I went to the Court of Appeal. I don't know if that's order. From the Court of Appeal, I went to the High Justice. So all those, you will do all those things and you have them on your CV. But if you do not articulate yourself as a person and you understand that as a person, that title is ahead, is just a title, you may die poor. Ladies and gentlemen, experience. If you're putting experience ahead of expertise, I have been a lawyer 30 years, 20 years, that's experience. But what expertise do you have? I mean, I do not need 30 years to gain certain expertise. I may need a year. That's what we call growing up. You may be growing old. As they said, yeah, Agnes, old age does not announce itself. But are you actually growing up? Are you working hard but hardly working? Ask yourself those questions. Are you putting your title ahead of you? And ladies and gentlemen, if these answers, these are personal questions, take the lawyer out of you and let's have this discussion as persons. Because in the public there, we when poverty comes, it doesn't come, this is for NSSF staff, this is for lawyers, this is for accountants. And if it is there that this is poverty for lawyers, I will tell you that poverty for lawyers should still be making push-ups, because it comes with a lot of it. You are exposed to money and then all of a sudden it goes away. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to wind up and I will give you my 5 takeaways. If before we go to those 5 takeaways, we've been talking about retirement, but I need to redefine retirement. Retirement is not an age. It's not an age. So as some of you, maybe the young lawyers are saying, oh, for me, I still have so many years to retire. Why do we need to talk about? No, retirement is not an age. Retirement is an amount. And you can hit that amount at 30, at 45. I had a dream to hit it at 30. That dream I will not share anymore because I have past 30. It is an amount. And when you hit that amount, what you do after that is service. You are in ministry. You are doing your passion. You are having your hobby. Are you working because you need to work, or are you working because it is service? When that person hits that amount and they have a public litigation, I can say they are doing it out of service, because for us, retirement is an amount. So if you are, your amount, define your amount, go down and define your amount. Your amount could be $1 billion, and your amount could be 100 million. If you hit that amount and it is on your account, or it is in assets, not cars, those cars are not assets, then you can say, I have retired. Anything working after that is just service. That is when you will find most people saying, for us, we are in ministry. We are not working for a paycheck. We have money working for us. We are no longer working for money. My 5 takeaways as I go away. Shadrach, if I can have my 5 takeaways. I need you to take action. All this, the essence of knowledge is to do. You have knowledge, and I will tell you, 4 years of law school, 1 year of LDC, 2 years of master's class, then some years of PhD, then so many years of practice. No one ever teaches you about money. You have labor law, but in labor law, we are not discussing how much you get. You are discussing, who should I sue when they don't give me this money? No one teaches you about money. So right now, when you get this information, it's only a few people that are paid to talk. I am paid to talk. Miriam, my land colleague here, is a John Maxwell speaker. She's paid to talk. So if you're not paid to talk, why are you talking about money? Do. Go and do. Don't talk. Leave us to talk because we are the ones being paid to talk. Let me talk. I can talk and talk and talk. And for you, what you need to do is action. Take responsibility. Take charge of your life. My land friends, take charge of your life. This business of accusing everyone else for your misery, for your not having money, for your next check has not come in. These guys have not paid us. Clients are poor lately. Everything is about everyone else, not you. When the fuel, when you don't have no fuel, you talk about how Seven raised fuel prices, but it's you who bought the car. I mean, take charge and take responsibility. Grow up and don't just grow old. Old age is gold, but no one takes gray hair in a supermarket and they purchase something. I have quite a number of gray hair, but I do not get things for free just because I have gray hair. So grow up. Growing up means that you need to start understanding how do we take things and how do we position ourselves. It means you planning for for 2 generations ahead of you, planning for your for the generation after your children, not just planning for the next supper. When you have, as a lawyer, just imagine in your house you are a lawyer, but then you go home and these are the conversations you have. You are having conversations about sugar, conversations about salt, conversations about soap. Who ate the soap? Why did you misuse the soap? You have finished the ayaka. Those are the conversations you have. And finally, money is habits. Habits, habits, and habits. Money is habits. It's not about the money. It's not how much money you are receiving, but what you are doing to get in the money. And finally, appreciate that process. My fellow land friends, when you appreciate that process, you should understand that every lawyer, all our land friends think when you get out immediately you need to drive a Mercedes Benz. Appreciate the process. Appreciate how long did it take this advocate to get that Benz, and what did he do? What did he do? So appreciate the process and go into that school of learning, go into that school of life learning, and move to that. Don't think you are just going to get out of law school and immediately you will command a salary of 10 million and you will live happily ever after. Allow me to stop here and I say, at NSSF, we believe action changes things. When you act, things in your life change. Things probably are not changing in your life because you lack action. Quit the talking and embrace action. Allow me to stop here and I say thank you.
Great. Apollo, thank you so much for that very direct and very provocative. I think for the lawyers are not used to being talked to the way Apollo has done, but I hope you understand why he had to. At the end of the day, it's you and I as individuals. The title does not matter anymore. So we are speaking today as friends, as colleagues, and we are learning about matters, financial literacy. Before Miriam comes on, I would like to request that we run a poll question which speaks to the challenge Apollo has left with us, that we must act. He said, don't talk, do. So I would like to know from you, are you saving with any retirement fund currently? Are you saving with any retirement fund? Kindly respond to the poll question and then Miriam will come on. Thank you. Please share the results as soon as they're in. Are you saving with any retirement fund? Have you started acting? Good, thank you. So the results I see here are we have about 46% of our audience saving with the NSSF. Thank you very much. We have about 8% saving with others. We have 36% saving with NSSF and others. That is the group to be in. And we have 10% who are not saving with anyone. So Miriam, you're welcome to speak to the audience, knowing where we are in our various levels of action. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much. It's such a privilege, such an honor for me to be here today. And I also feel very provoked by Apollo. I think he did a very good job of making us so uncomfortable and taking us to the next level of deciding what is it that I really want? What is it that I want to do? So, so now that we have been provoked, I just want to ask the host, just enable me to share my screen. Thank you. Okay, no problem. Okay, no problem. So now that we've been provoked, my question is now what? You know, you've had all the things that Apollo had to say to you, and you feel like I'm in that category. That's me. Now what? What are you going to do about it? I want to just help us to be able to look at how do we actually move forward. So how do we plan for retirement? What do we do about it? What's your intention after today? What are the steps that you're going to take you from where you have been, the places we've been talking about it? What is your, I'll tell you what my intention is. I'll tell you what my intention is. My intention today is to equip you and enable you to plan for a comfortable retirement. That is why we are here. We want you to go to the next step. We want you to go to the next level. We want you to put in place plans that can actually help you to get the kind of retirement that you deserve. That is our intention today. So it's interesting. There's some statistic that I found that was very, very interesting. This is about the 8 things we fear about retirement. 8 things people fear about retirement. Number 1, this was taken among workers who were aged 50 and older. And they said that the following were their greatest fears in retirement. 43% were afraid of outliving their savings and investments. 43%. Have I saved enough? Will I live longer than my money is able to sustain me in retirement? We had about 38% who were concerned about healthcare, social security. Some people were saying, okay, I have social security, but will it last? Will it last? Will it be there when I need it the most? 27% says, will we have affordable healthcare? Some of them, of course, were very concerned about diseases, dementia. Some of them were wondering, will I have a meaningful way to spend my time? So you can see there are so many things that worry people about retirement. But number 1 is, have I saved enough? My question to you today is, have you saved enough? We have people who've been very honest during the poll, and they've said, for me, I haven't saved anything. And you are the people that we're interested in. You're the people that NSSF is interested in. You're people that the Law Society is interested in to see you move from that place to take action. Can we move the slides? So there's no single solution to creating the best retirement system. It's very interesting. This is the CFA institution. The CFA Institute. And they were saying that there's no single solution. When it comes to retirement, every country has to find something that works for them, something that takes into consideration their own circumstance. And I liked this because there's no solution that is similar for everybody when it comes to retirement. It is a tailor-made solution for you as an individual. No one is going to give you the answer. You yourself have to think about a solution that fits you. So it's not a one-size-fits-all when it comes to planning for your retirement. It has to be tailor-made. So how are you going to put in place a plan that works for you? How are you going to do that? That's our concern today. How are you going to put in place that plan? So retirement is when you withdraw from one's active working life. And I mean, people say lawyers don't retire, but you know, sometimes the bonds do get weak. My dad is a lawyer. He's a retired judge of the High Court. And it's very interesting that he just kept working. Even when he retired from the High Court as a judge, he kept working. He started a law firm. He worked and worked and worked. And then at about the age of 83, we had a family meeting and we retired him. So you may be in that category, okay? We reached a point where the whole family got involved and they said, don't go back. So now he goes to the farm to read newspapers, but he doesn't go to court anymore. So imagine that. There will be a time, you too will grow old, when the body begins to feel, maybe I can't go anymore. And that is really the time that we are looking at. That is retirement. It's that withdrawal from that active life that you are leading, okay? It is that withdrawal. So what is your retirement goal? It's very important for you to think of a retirement goal. People have goals for everything. People have fitness goals. They have health goals. They have a goal of how much money they want to earn when they get a job. They have a goal of who they want to marry. How come you don't have a retirement goal? That's step number one in retirement planning. You have to dream. I like what Agnes said at the beginning, that think about what you want in retirement. Many times when people close their eyes, actually wherever you are, just close your eyes. People close their eyes and they imagine retirement by the beach. How come we're all going to the beach? The beach is going to be flooded when people are in retirement. Okay? So the first question is, where will you live? Where will you live? Where are you actually going to live? Is it going to be by the beach? Is that what you're thinking? Or is it going to be in a shack? Because sometimes what we think and the reality are two different things, okay? They are two different things. So some of you have in mind the beach, but guess what? When you go to your village, this is actually what you have, if you have anything at all. So when you're thinking about your retirement plan and your goals, think about where you're going to live. And when you think about where you're going to live, the most important thing for you is to think about retiring in a location with a lower cost of living. It's so interesting how everyone is going to the village, but they don't even know the village mates. They haven't been there in years. Even their parents and their uncles and aunties live in the city. So how come it's you going to the village? Is that practical? So you have to start thinking about these things. So you need to think about the cost of living where you live. Maybe you think you're going to Hoima, but maybe in Hoima, because of the oil wells, the cost of living has gone up. Or maybe you think you're going to go to the north, and the cost of living has gone up because of all the NGOs that are in the north and have been running programs there, and even accommodation is charged in dollars. So you need to do some research. Some of you are sending your children to study abroad. Guess where you're going to live? You're going to live in Washington. Because you want to be near your children. So you have to think about the decisions you make today and how they impact your life later on. Many of our parents are now maintaining a home in the village and a home in the city. But many of them thought they'd live in the village, but their children are not in the village. They're in town. So guess where they are living? In Kampala. So you have to think about that. The next thing is, who will you be with? I like this picture. This is a picture of my parents. They are my greatest example of retirement planning. They have been married for 53 years. Who will you be with? It's interesting when we talk about retirement planning, people have a short-term view of relationships, and yet they think they'll be with that person long-term. It is so funny. People treat their spouse as if they can walk out the door tomorrow. But when you ask them, who will you be with? My wife. Your wife? You're not going to have a wife if you keep treating her like that. So even when it comes to retirement planning, you have to think about who you will be with. If you think about the statistics I showed you earlier, I showed you that about 9% of people are afraid of being isolated and lonely. Isolated and lonely. So the other question is, who are your friends going to be? Good question. All our friends are on WhatsApp and Facebook. We have changed our friends into virtual friends, isn't it? So who are you going to talk to in retirement? Who are you going to tell that my back is hurting? My mom tells me that when you go to the doctor, you go in and it was your back. But when he asks you, it's now the leg and it's the eye. So you don't know how to answer the doctor. Do I first tell him about the eye or do I tell him about the leg? All that is retirement planning. Who are your friends? Who will your friends be when you're 65? Some people think their friends will be the people at work. I'm sorry to tell you. If you're a senior lawyer, your friends are not going to be the clerkship students today. When you leave the firm, they delete your number. Isn't it? That's just the reality. So you have to start to think about these things. Who will your friends be? What will your health look like? What will your health look like? It's interesting how people work their whole lives making money. Then in retirement, they turn around and use it for medical procedures. Think about it. We see this all the time. All through their life, when they were young, they can jog, they can exercise, they can be healthy, they can eat well. They're doing all the wrong things. Then all the money they've accumulated is for an operation in India. That is a poor plan. So when it comes to health, you need to have a plan of what your health will look like. Good nutrition, regular exercise, annual health checkups. These are things that you constantly must be doing. And remember, when you think about retirement, the greatest cost is healthcare. So how do you reduce your costs? Just be healthy today. Take it into consideration today. Take care of your health today. Okay? What will your hobbies be? This is very interesting. You find lawyers who don't do anything else. You ask them, what do you like to do? Like, what? They don't even understand the question. Do you swim? Do you do golf? Do you run? What do you like? Do you cook? We have even forgotten about passions. We've forgotten about hobbies. What is it that you like to do apart from going to court? What is it that you love? Can you imagine learning to play golf at 55? Oh dear. And unfortunately, you have the money. But maybe your swing won't be so good. How about learning to swim at 50? So you have to think about your hobbies. What is it that you will do? One of my colleagues told me something very interesting. He said he swims a lot now because that's his retirement plan for his health. So he has been increasing the intensity of how he swims. He says when you're older, you just need an exercise that's easy. For him, it's swimming. So guess what? He swims today a lot. That's a good plan. So what will your hobbies actually be in retirement? You need to be thinking about that. How much money will you have? The money question. The money question. How much money will you have? You have to determine today how much you'll have in retirement. I don't know why we think that retirement will just bring us miracles. Think about what people withdraw from NSSF. I think Apollo said it's about 200,000. And the individuals, the average, 93% are below 50 million after saving all their lives. Can you imagine? 93%. So how much are you putting away for retirement? How much money will you actually have when you retire? And then we have these retirement myths. I like retirement myths. Very interesting. That's why I've even put fire on them so that you can think about it and just see how disastrous it is. People say, why do I need to save so much money? I will not live until 90. So people are going around saying, no, it's not necessary. After all, I will not live until 90. I want to ask you, you need to understand what we call longevity. Longevity risk. It is actually a risk. That is a risk that you will live longer than your retirement savings. It is a risk. And what has happened now is we have an increase in life expectancy. Some work has been done around this by the World Health Organization. And they have come to realize that in Africa, they are seeing an increase in life expectancy from 61 years to 77 years. I have a friend whose mother celebrated 100 years. 100. My husband, his grandmother died at 100. People are dying at 100 years. Why? Because there's increase in medicine. We have anti-aging treatments. Women live longer than men everywhere. So let me tell you, this is global. If you're a woman and you're listening to this, the chances that you'll outlive your husband statistically are there. So you will live long. We will come for your 100th birthday. So don't say, oh, I may die tomorrow. No, you're not God. So you must plan for longevity, risk. The risk that you may not be able, that your money may not be able to sustain you, and that you will live longer. Okay? And then there's another myth. People say, I'll not need much money in retirement. Yeah, I'm retired. You know, it's so interesting. I'm retired. What do I need money for? Oh, yes, you will need money in retirement. So I want you to do this simple exercise. I want you to calculate how much you will need for your retirement. I want you to calculate it after this session. And how will you do that? Let me tell you how you're going to do that. I want you to just move to the next slide. I want you to estimate your annual living expenses in retirement, include healthcare. Just sit down, look at how much am I spending? Estimate how much will I be spending in retirement? Calculate 80% of it, because we are saying maybe your children are out of school and things like that. Multiplied by the number of years you expect to live. So if you're 40 and you're thinking, oh, I'll live another 50 years, multiplied by that, okay? And then add up how much income you expect to receive in retirement. This is the time to pull out that statement, the NSSF statement that you get, or your Provident Fund statement. Look at how much you have saved. If your retirement income exceeds the expenses, my brother, my sister, you have enough. Congratulations. We're clapping for you right now. You've saved enough. Well done. Wow, good job. But let me tell you, very few people have exceeded what they need. I remember being in a conference in Mombasa about a year ago. I was speaking at a conference there, and it was so interesting. We were so many people in the room, hundreds and hundreds of people, and we went to do this kind of exercise with an actuary. And in a conference that had hundreds of people, guess how many people had saved enough for retirement? One. And this was in Kenya. One. So the chances that you've already saved enough for retirement are quite low. It's quite low. So you need to know the gap. You know, when you do this calculation, you go back and you respect your boss. You're not the kind of person who say, even if they chase me from the law firm, I can go to another one. You first do the exercise, my sister. You will hold on to the job. It will become a very attractive job to you because you'll understand the reality of what you need to save to have a comfortable retirement. So these are some of the things that you need to do when it comes to having a comfortable retirement. Now, this is another myth. I'll do farming. You know, all the corporates are now farmers. Oh my God. When I hear people talking like this, I just want to laugh and fall down. This is someone who paints their nails. They don't even want to do a flower garden at home. They don't even have vegetables. They don't even go and dig and get some vegetables to put on their table. All of a sudden, we're all farmers. Really? All of us are farmers? So now what are people saying? No, it's okay. Even me, I'll do farming. Hey, that's another myth. So I want to tell you some realities about farming. When it comes to farming as a retirement plan, I want you to know that it takes some years before you have a positive cash flow when it comes to farming. Most people who are successful in farming as a way of raising money for their retirement have put in at least 10 years before they retire. 10 years. 10 years. You need to gather information and knowledge on farming. There are a lot of expos on farming right now. Attend those. Farmland and equipment is expensive. So you need to do a proper, realistic budget. And then the people who really get the most out of farming are people who are passionate. They are passionate about farming, and they're also passionate about having it as a source of income. So there are people who just love the smell of goats, the smell of hens, the smell of pigs. They're the ones who do farming in retirement. Are you that kind of person? So farming for retirement is something that you really, really must take consideration in when it comes to planning for your retirement. Now, the second thing you need to do is save more towards retirement. Do additional voluntary contributions. I know NSSF now has the voluntary contributions. Save more. Remember, you're only putting in 15%, isn't it, for NSSF? But if you look at your gap and your gap is wider, why don't you do it voluntarily? Why don't you take that opportunity A lot of pension funds now do that as well. Increase your cash flow margin and save more towards retirement. There are things that you can obviously do. Some of you have a negative cash flow. That one I can't even go into right now. But I think Apollo provoked you about that. That one is just bad manners. You get a salary, you're broke, you're the one begging. That one I can't even deal with today. Okay? That habit must change. Aim to progress from pillar 1 to 4. When we talk about pensions, we have the pension pillars. Pillar 1 is basic. Here is where we have what we call SAGE, the Social Assistance Grant Program, if you've heard of it. It's a basic level. Then we have mandatory pensions. So NSSF is under pillar 2. And then we have what we call voluntary pensions. This is where you can put an additional saving on top of your NSSF. And then we have pillar 4, which is really private, other savings that are outside the pension system. If you're saving well for retirement, you need to move from pillar 2 to pillar 4, or from pillar 1 to pillar 4. It's important for you to move through that so that you are even saving voluntarily and you are even saving privately. So you need to move through the pension pillars. Very, very key for you to do that. So you need to also aim for 60% of the net replacement rate. When we talk about the replacement rate in pensions, we are basically saying the amount of money that replaces what you were earning, okay? The amount of money that replaces what you were earning. So statistically, they say 60 to 75 or 80% is very good replacement ratio. Guess what? If someone was earning 5 million net and her annual net income was 60 million, for them to achieve a 60% net replacement ratio, it means they have to save about